Okay, so before we move on to the next section, I would like to discuss some of the key benefits of using named ranges. And earlier in the course, when we were applying Excel data validation to our worksheets and creating drop-down lists, we saw a little preview on how to create a named range. And then we were able to use that named range in our Excel data validation. But I also want to show you is how we can use named ranges within our formulas. So let's select the first cell underneath the count column that contains our COUNTIF function that we created in the last video. Well, if we take a look at our formula, it says COUNTIF C3 through C15, which is our range, and then our criteria is E3, which is our letter grade. Well, instead of using C3 through C15, we can define a name for this range, and it will make our formulas easier to read and understand which data that this function is using. So to create a named range, we first have to select the range that we want to define a name for. So since we are trying to replace C3 through C15, we can select the grade column. And to give this range a name, we could come up to the name box and start typing in a name, or we can go to the Formulas tab and select Define Name. And we can name this range Grades. And we can tell that it refers to C3 through C15. And if we click OK, now if we go back to the cell that contains our COUNTIF function, so if we come up to our formula and delete this range and then start typing in grades, our named range automatically pops up and we can give this a double click. And we can see that it selected our range, and now this formula is a lot easier to read. So instead of having column letters and row numbers, we can see that this function is using our grades range. Click enter. So if we double click this fill handle, now every one of our formulas is referencing the grades named range. And one of the great things about named ranges is that if we add a new row that's within our named range, our range will automatically update. For example, if I come between Kate and Grace and add a new row, and let's say that John scored at 85, he would get a B for his grade, and within our count column, instead of counting 3 B's, it has now counted 4. And if we come up to our Formulas tab and then click on Name Manager, we can see that our grades named range is now referencing from cells C3 to C16 instead of C15 because we added one more row within this range. And if you ever needed to change the range of cells within this name range, we can clear this box and then highlight a different range of cells. Here I just selected the same range because that's what our count function is referring to. So we can close out of this and click yes. And that's how you use name ranges inside of your formulas.